Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Vinnie Potestivo, and I'm so happy that he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Caroline. Willkommen, bienvenue. It's nice to be here.
Oh yes, and this is like yes, the musical cabaret, right?
Yeah.
Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. It's cabaret. Yes, thank you so much. I would like to introduce you to the audience. You are an Emmy-winning media strategist who helps leaders, founders, and creators grow their visibility and turn recognition into real impact. As the founder of VPE Talent and host of I Have a Podcast, you have spent over 30 years helping talent and brands get seen, heard, and discovered. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast. Wow, Vinny Potestivo.
Thanks so much for
Great.
having me. And so cool to hear you talk about that world that I got to be a part of. And the reason why I'm here is to be creative and help creatives get visibility. It's the thing I'm really good at. And it's the thing that I am ready to talk about.
I would love that. And my first question for you is, what's the biggest visibility mistake most creators or founders make, and how can they fix it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's br- strong question. The biggest mistake that people make when it comes to their visibility. Can I give you two answers?
Of course.
All right. The first answer is that they think that all visibility is equal. That's the first mistake they make. That all visibility is the same. And I want to point out that some leaders have to show up annually, some leaders have to show up monthly, some have to show up, weekly. But we get to choose how much support and how we support our audiences. And for me, supporting the conversation is even more important than starting it. And when people are looking for visibility, they often focus on now versus 5 months from now. How is starting this conversation today going to help me 5 months from now or 5 years from now? How will I be supporting it? So that's the first thing I want to say is like they make decisions based on now. I learned from Cher. She didn't teach me, but I've heard her talk about this. Cher says that if if something isn't going to be relevant 5 years from now, if she doesn't think people will talk about it 5 years from now, she isn't going to do it. She isn't going to make it. She isn't going to do it. And the power that we have today to course correct tomorrow is way stronger than the power we have today to fix today. Like we're already in it. There's momentum. The time is ticking. We can't control time and we're at a loss. And I don't know what the future has in store for us, but I know we're the ones that are going to make it. So I lean into that choice. And I like to say all visibility isn't the same, and how we show up really matters. And where we show up is the second part. Some people on social media will create a long piece of content and then chop it up into small pieces and almost like seasonings, a little bit on YouTube and a little bit on Instagram and a little bit on LinkedIn. And instead of that, I have one core platform that I cater to, which is LinkedIn. And I want to be discovered on LinkedIn. I want to be found on LinkedIn. I want to be a LinkedIn success story. I want to be fascinating on LinkedIn. And when I have my big moment of visibility, I want it to be with the people that I surround myself with on LinkedIn. So I'm intentional. I do everything on LinkedIn because I know it's going to happen. And when it does, we'll all be together. What I don't do is try to figure out how to show up on different platforms that I'm not comfortable being on. And I have really strong barriers and boundaries. So for me, this year, Twitter is one of those platforms that I'm no longer really active on. But I will tell you that if you ever want to reach out to me or ask me a question and you want to get to know me, LinkedIn is the best platform to do it because I can take action on LinkedIn. So all visibility isn't the same. And where you show up and who you show up with matters.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Now I understand a little bit better. You talked about support. Supporting is more important than visibility. I don't remember. Starting, yeah, it was starting a conversation, and I
Yeah.
think in terms of engagement as well. Yeah, the word. I just wanted to add the word, right? And then you said something about it is more important what we can or how we can impact in 5 years with our actions today. And that reminds me of a quote I came across. It was Michael Singer. I have to share because he said, "Reality is what already happened." So
Yeah.
it happened already, and when we focus on what we can influence, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Yes, and then the piece about Cher, of course, we know her, we appreciate her and
Yeah.
her knowledge. I did not know this, but she's also like a, can I say diva? I don't know, I like the
Yeah.
word. Yes.
And what I love about her is like she's relevant, right? She's inspiring and she's relevant and she doesn't have to pivot. She doesn't have to change direction and reinvent herself. Some artists do that very quickly. Cher is fast to move and slow to change. She's always evolving, but steadily because she's confident in the skin and confident from the place that she's coming in. And as creatives now, us, me and you, people who make content, like, look, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, only celebrities made content that no one asked for. Now we make content that no one asks for, and it serves a really big purpose. So finding people who are going to support me is just as important as me finding the people that I can support. I want it to be the same, and I can make that happen. It's a choice, and I can stand in that choice and make that happen.
Yeah, it's a choice. It's the name of
Mm.
the podcast, and I'm happy that you mentioned this
Oh
and
yeah, it
also
is. Yeah.
LinkedIn because you have what I also learned from you, I did not share, is that you created your own LinkedIn hashtag,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So,
with the
wh-
people can find
you know,
you.
what's interesting
Mhm.
about hashtags now on social media is the AI has come so far that now the platforms understand what we're saying. Like when Twitter and social media came out years ago, a decade ago, it didn't understand the words. So hashtags were used as a way to sort of give visibility and sort through what was being created because there was a lot of content that was being created and how do you find something if it's not, being clear. So so my best performing posts on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn this year alone all did not have hashtags on them. And I feel like hashtags sometimes look like it looks like marketing. It reminds you that I'm trying to get business versus I want reach and that matters. So I can remove that hashtag and not focus on trying to get discovered through the hashtag and on a whim and hope that somebody subscribes to that hashtag and they find me instead. And I was taught this by a brilliant creative strategist and business strategist on LinkedIn. Her name is Judy Fox, and I lean into my personal hashtag. So yeah, linked Vin is my hashtag, like similar to LinkedIn, but linked Vin on LinkedIn, and I use that hashtag as a way to make sure people who want to join in my conversations can do it. And hashtags work differently on LinkedIn. So on Instagram, for example, when you put a hashtag in it, it pushes your content out to the people who are looking for that specific word. And if you were to search for your hashtag, the number next to that hashtag would tell you how many pieces of content were made. That's how hashtags work on Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's the exact opposite. On LinkedIn, I don't push out content based on my hashtag. On LinkedIn, when I log on to LinkedIn, I pull content into my feed based on the hashtags that I told LinkedIn I want to see. So this push and pull are two very different mechanisms. And what I can do is tell people that by using hashtag LinkedIn, you can network in real time. You can join conversations in real time. Like you can actually meet me and talk as opposed to follow content or read something that's already done. It's just a little bit more of an opportunity to really truly to really connect with people. And I love the connection. That's why I do what I do with audiences. And it's why I do it the way that I do it because the audience matters and and I have to make sure what's happening on stage is great so that the audience comes through and we can participate in that.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for explaining. And it's all about keeping the conversation alive, I would say, that
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
constant. Yeah,
That's
I
it. And
love
that's
it.
the trick to LinkedIn also. Keep the conversation alive. I never say thank you. Thank you and thumbs up are the game killer. The end of the thank you means that we're done, and thumbs up means we're done. I will always find a way to ask a question and engage and move the conversation forward.
Wow, that's great advice. Thank you so much. My next
Yeah.
question for you is you've helped build pop culture icons. What's one thing today's entrepreneurs can learn from celebrity branding?
Oh, okay. So that's a great question. I'll tell you what you can learn and what you learn the good way and the bad way. Let's say it that way. You know, celebrities have agents, and a lot of celebrities share agents with other celebrities. So an agent is contractually responsible for your financial success. Like they're contractually responsible for making sure you're getting paid. There's a responsibility there in doing that. But because they have other clients and other artists similar to you, they also have that same responsibility to those people as well. So what happens in the celebrity culture is we find out someone gets paid, and then ultimately we're having a conversation. I'm not there's a bigger conversation to be have here about gender disparity and the age gap, and like there are other corrupt things that are happening here, but in general, when we find out how much people make, we now are a responsibility to our clients for them to make equally as much money. If not, we have to try to get them that much money. So in celebrity, there's a lot of like, how much did that person get paid? How much did they get paid for that project? Oh, so and so, you're gonna get cast as a lead actor in a film. Okay, well, how much did the person before me get? Because I want more than them. Like that's how celebrity culture dictates money and talks about finances differently than what I'd like to recommend for us creators who are creating content, and maybe we don't know how much money we should be getting because we don't know what people pay for a blog post or a brand mention or a brand deal. And my advice, and it's a little bit different than what most people are saying, but trust me when I tell you this works. My advice is to ask for what you want always. It's it's almost counterintuitive to ask for what you want. Most of us ask for what we think we can get. Don't worry about what you think you can get. What you think you can get is limiting. Ask for what you want. You're going to get a version of what you ask for. I promise you. You're going to get a version, either what you ask for or less than. You're probably not going to get more than. And if you miss out on an opportunity and you find out you could have gotten more money, well, then guess what? Life will give you another opportunity to ask for more money again. But you don't have to try to grab all that money in one opportunity. And I've seen a lot of opportunities go away because the negotiation process took too long and it was too complicated. If people just stop for a second, stop and think, how much do I want? How much do I need? I don't want to have to compare myself to everybody else. And I don't compare myself to everybody else. Also, because I know I get paid differently than everybody else because I think differently. So I ask for things differently. And that's okay. But I've been in rooms where those smart conversations happened. That's why I do what we're doing now. I'm here telling you, like, when you when you're looking around seeing what everybody else who's similar to you is getting paid, you're falling into that trend. By asking for what you want, you're creating the trend. And there's a lot of power in creating that trend.
Absolutely, I agree. And I want to go back to chair when you said
Yeah.
it was successful people. Yeah, it is a common character trait of successful people to make quick decisions and not revise them at all or too quickly. This comes from the book Think and Grow Rich, by the way, and I think
Yeah.
that your approach is also based a little bit on that book,
Yeah,
maybe.
I've read that book. Yeah, I've read that book. That's part of my input. It's a great book.
Yes, it is. My next question for you: how can someone without a huge budget or following start a successful business? still make a splash in the media world?
Oh, I mean, create content. It literally, I mean, I know our iPhones and our phones cost money. So if you're lucky enough to have one of these production companies in your back pocket, create content. I mean, you don't need a fancy microphone anymore to have a strong podcast. You can simply record it on voice notes. That's Look, quality comes in a lot of different shapes. Some of it is in the sound, some of it is in the message, some of it is in the emotion. So how you find quality, these are creative challenges. So I always look at financial challenges as creative challenges. Like we have no money, but we have to make something happen. So can we get trade out? So I start looking, what do I have? Well, I have a studio, so having a home and a computer, that's not going to cost me, so I can record from home. And the I don't have money for lights, but the daylight is really, really good from like 11 to 2 o'clock. So I start looking at those windows where I can show up, not what I should do, but what I can do. And I don't wait for an opportunity to establish itself, to present itself to me to be able to move forward. I'm constantly creating opportunities. In fact, I have no more good ideas. I only have bad ideas. All my good ideas are TV shows, and people take them. And people will say, "But they're your ideas. Are you afraid? Why? It's my idea. Make it. I'm part of the success. I'm part of the alchemy. I'm in the project. I have strong relationships, but I also share my ideas with people who are in a position to make them. I don't share my ideas with people who are in a position to give me feedback. So that's like a big. Something else I learned from that celebrity culture. If you have a project that you're working on, creative or not, and you want to share it and you want to see, you want to get a feel for if it's viable or not, share it with someone who's in a position to move it forward. Do not share it with somebody who's in a position just to give you their feedback based on what they would watch or what they would not watch. Um, I learned that the hard way. And the reason is
Oh,
because there's data and there's an audience point of view to lean into that's you generally established on these platforms, and that's where I would start.
oh, what a great advice. Thank you so much. And it's so important who we ask, you said, because sometimes when I can share,
Yeah.
when we are in a bad mood or so, we always ask the people according to our beliefs or what we want to hear. And
Hmm.
if we
Yeah.
want discouragement, for example, then we ask the people and then we can say, oh yes, I knew it before, it won't be successful, and then we don't start. We found an excuse, an alibi
Yeah.
to not start, right? Wow, so great. My next question, of course, I have another question. What's your go-to strategy for turning visibility into actual business growth?
What's my go-to strategy for actually doing that? DMs, private messaging. DMs.
Ah,
I
okay.
post on social media maybe 2 times a month. I comment on other people's social media every single day, and I have long conversations in DMs for hours. Part of the reason why I don't post so much is I know that when I post, I'm going to get phone calls and emails, and I also don't post silly updates. I post, valuable pieces of content that have resonance. They make impact. I'm designing it to be that way. Um, so you have to take action, and you have to be consistent in that action. I'm not saying you need to be consistent every single week, every Tuesday, every third. There's this idea of like consistency for content that you can't stop. That's hard for me. That that means that growth of your audience and the consumption of your content, the consumption of content, like ads and the consumption, is more important than the message and the nurturing of that audience. And for that reason, I like to really, really fall back and nurture and take my time with these audiences. That's why I use my LinkedIn newsletter as a way to nurture my audience. I don't, on my LinkedIn newsletter, I won't say things like new episode, new guest on this, we talk. I'm saying I'll start, that post. I'll say things, something like, three things have changed the media industry quicker than anyone ever could have thought of. Here are those three things. I sat down with this person. I even have a podcast episode about it. You might want to listen to it. because it's really good and we really dive deeply into it. But what I'm not going to do is like put links in there because like I don't know, people don't, if you're on social media, your goal is not to listen to my podcast. If your goal is really to listen to my podcast after finding me on social media, then you'll know how to find my podcast on whatever platform you want to go to. But what I'm not going to do is put all of these links in my posts and in my captions and everything that no one clicks on because no one wants to go outside of the platform. So for me on LinkedIn, when you want to listen to my podcast, I actually send you to my LinkedIn newsletter and I embed my episodes in newsletters so that you don't have to leave LinkedIn to be able to listen to the episode. And I'm just being mindful of that. When you meet people where they're at, don't be so quick to ask them to leave. Like everyone's, you're listening to a podcast, follow me on social media. No. You're listening to a podcast. Follow me on podcasting. That's you know how to hit play on a podcast. You found us here. You listened this far. So what are you going to do next? You're going to have to hit stop, or you're going to go find a new podcast to listen to. So when you're done listening to our podcast here, the Inspired Choice Chronicle, maybe give mine a chance. Mine is called I Have a Podcast. I talked to Beyonce is my last episode about building a brand. It's a great episode. You'll learn a lot from it, I promise. When Beyonce tells you to stop being nice to everybody because they're not being nice to you, oof, you listen.
Oh, yes, definitely. I will listen to it, of course. I subscribed everywhere and I love your
You're wonderful.
LinkedIn and
Thank you. Thank you,
thank you
Caroline.
so much. I learned so much. Of course, I have one last question for you, but I also wanted to say something about just a little
Sure.
note on that. I heard it. We create our audience. So we create. I thought a lot about
We create.
where do these people come from, and then I thought when you want to
Yeah.
speak on stage, for example, or have a podcast, you create the audience in your mind
Hmm.
first, and then you see it and you attract the people, and this is wonderful. It's co-creating. Yes.
Yeah. It's a partnership, and it allows me to show up, and I don't put so much stress on myself because I'm not the only person in this relationship, and it's built that way. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for being my guest today. My last question for you, maybe it is not the last time we did a podcast together. Who knows?
Perfect. I would
My
love
last
that. Thank
question.
you. Yes.
Yes, let's do this again. My last question is about your goals and intentions. Do you set goals for yourself? And what is one of your next projects?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So, one of my next projects is to support a female who ends up running for public office. I'm looking forward to that. I want to work with more women who are passionate about what's happening in American legislature and want to get active and involved because we could use some alternative voices out there. And while I can't get rid of the voices that are leading our country, I know I can add more to them. So I have a real goal to empower our communities. I have a real goal to help cross communication happen easier. Um, People are going off link. People are leaving, social media, Twitter and Instagram because of the political beliefs of those owners. And then also because of the content that's happening, the bullying that's happening, the news that's happening. I, I want to build a more tolerable place. I want to build a place where we can tolerate each other. We don't have to necessarily understand each other to respect each other and to be in the same place and have different goals and values, but still share. I don't to still share in humanity together. And I know that we can do that as creatives and as creators by creating conversations that bring people together. And that's my goal. My goal is to empower people who are creating conversations that are literally bringing people together. And they're supporting those conversations with their products and their services and their businesses and their TV shows and their talks and their, all the things that we do to keep people inspired and moving. And we're giving them choices, not just opportunities, but we're giving them choices to be inspired. Like a choice to be inspired versus an opportunity to be an opportunity leads to the choice. The choice is you deciding, do you take it or not? And if I can help more people and inspire them to have more choices in their lives, more client choices, more talent choices, more abilities to do different things with their companies or their media, then creatively, I've done my job. And I would feel very rewarded doing that.
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm inspired now, and this is also why I chose the name, because there's the difference between decision making and having a choice, or realizing that we all get to choose. And then I want to repeat what you said, or add the word embrace humanity,
Yeah.
because I heard it before. Embrace our own humanity. I love that. Let's do more of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and if we can create with that being the goal, then that's like a if embracing humanity is the ingredient that we put into what we create, then we're not creating a result, we're using that result in the act of taking change, and that's powerful.
Wow, I love that. I love that as your final thoughts. Thank you so much for
Thank
being my
you.
guest today. Wow, thank you. Yes, and I see you, of course, in the next episode.